She won't walk again, the doctor said. And he walked away the same night. You always wanted attention, he said. So I gave it to my art, and the world watched. Hey beautiful souls, it's Mary here. Today I'm sharing Emily's story, and let me tell you, this one hit me right in the heart. Some of you might see yourselves in Emily's journey. If you do, I want you to know you're stronger than you think. But before we dive in, smash that like button if you're ready for a story that'll give you chills. And don't forget to subscribe for more comeback queen stories every single day. Now let's dive in. My name is Emily, and I need to tell you something that might sound familiar. I used to have dreams. Big, beautiful, impossible dreams that kept me up at night, but in the best way possible. I was going to study art in Florence. Can you picture it? Me, painting under the Tuscan sun, learning from masters, my canvases filled with all the colors I'd been dreaming about since I was 7 years old. Then I'd come back to New York, open my own gallery, maybe even have my work hanging in the Met someday. Sounds crazy, right? But that's what dreams are supposed to be, a little crazy, a little impossible. Then I met Ryan. He was everything I thought I wanted. Tall, confident, successful in his marketing job. He had this way of making me feel like I was the only woman in the room. And when he proposed after 8 months, I said yes without hesitation. We can do Florence later, he promised, sliding that ring onto my finger. Once we're settled, once we have our life together figured out. I believed him. God, I believed him so completely. We ended up in Denver, his choice, of course. His job opportunity. I packed up my easel, my paints, my dreams, and followed him there like a good girlfriend should, like a good wife should. You know what happens when you put your dreams in a box? They don't just wait patiently, they start to hurt. Every day I didn't paint felt like holding my breath. But I told myself this was what love looked like: sacrifice, compromise, putting someone else first. I got a job at a local art supply store. Not exactly the career I'd planned, but at least I was around art, right? At least I could help other people chase their dreams, even if mine were collecting dust in our spare bedroom. Ryan worked long hours, came home tired, stressed, and sometimes angry about office politics or deadlines. I learned to read his moods, to have dinner ready when he wanted it, to not bring up my painting when he was having a bad day. We'll get to that, he'd say whenever I mentioned art classes or maybe setting up a little studio space. Once things calmed down at work, once we saved more money, once. 3 years of once. 3 years of shrinking myself smaller and smaller until I'd barely recognized the woman in the mirror. It was a Tuesday in March. I remember because I'd just gotten home from the art store, and there was this beautiful light coming through our kitchen window, the kind of light that used to make me grab my brushes without thinking. Instead, I started making dinner. Ryan came home angry. Some client had rejected his proposal, and he was spiraling about it. I tried to be supportive, tried to listen, but he wasn't really talking to me. He was talking at me, around me, through me. Maybe this is a sign, I said quietly while we ate. Maybe you could try something new. Maybe we both could. That's when he exploded. Not everyone can just chase fairy tales, Emily. Some of us have to live in the real world. Some of us have responsibilities. What's that supposed to mean? It means your little painting hobby isn't going to pay our mortgage. It means maybe it's time you grew up and stopped living in some fantasy. My little painting hobby. 3 years of marriage. And that's what he called the thing I loved most in this world. I stood up from the table. I didn't yell, I've never been a yeller, but I looked him straight in the eye and said, I gave up Florence for you. I gave up New York for you. I gave up myself for you. And you can't even pretend to care about the one thing that makes me feel alive. He grabbed his keys. I need some air. Ryan, you've been drinking. I'm fine. The door slammed behind him. I should have called him, should have texted, should have done something, but I was so tired of always being the one to smooth things over, to make everything okay. 20 minutes later, my phone rang. Mrs. Patterson? This is Denver General Hospital. There's been an accident. The drive to the hospital felt like swimming through honey. Everything was slow and thick and wrong. I kept thinking about that fight, about the way he'd looked at me when he left. I kept thinking this was somehow my fault. They wouldn't tell me much over the phone, just that there had been a crash, that I needed to come right away. I found Ryan first. He was sitting in the emergency room with a bandage on his forehead and a shock blanket around his shoulders. When he saw me, his face did something I'd never seen before. It crumpled, but not with relief, with something else, something that looked almost like guilt. Emily, he whispered. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. What happened? Are you okay? I hit a tree. I was going too fast and I hit a tree and you were. He couldn't finish the sentence. That's when I realized. I wasn't hurt. I wasn't the patient. I was already the patient. I don't remember the crash. The doctors say that's normal, the brain's way of protecting us from trauma. What I do remember is waking up in the ICU 2 days later, my head fuzzy from medication, my mother's worried face hovering over me. Baby, she whispered, stroking my hair. You're awake. Thank God, you're awake. I tried to sit up, but something was wrong. I couldn't feel my legs. Mom? My voice came out small and scared. Mom, I can't feel my legs. The silence in that room was the loudest thing I'd ever heard. Dr. Martinez came in with that careful, professional face doctors wear when they have to deliver news that's going to change your life forever. Spinal cord injury. Complete. T12 vertebra. Medical terms that all meant the same thing. I would never walk again. Where's Ryan? I asked after the doctor left. It was the first thing I could think to say. Because what do you say when someone tells you your whole life just changed in ways you can't even begin to understand? My mom's face went tight. He's dealing with some things right now, honey. What kind of things? That's when my little sister Sarah came in. Sarah, who's never been able to hide anything, who's always worn her heart on her sleeve. One look at her face and I knew. He left, didn't he? She burst into tears. My mom tried to shush her, but I needed to know. Emily, my mom said carefully, he's having a hard time processing this. He needs some space to figure things out. Space. That's what she called abandonment. Space. I later found out he'd been telling everyone, friends, family, co-workers, that I'd been dramatic during our fight, that I'd distracted him while he was driving, that somehow this was my fault, that I'd always been unstable and hard to live with. The divorce papers came while I was still in the hospital. 3 years of marriage. 3 years of putting him first, of making myself smaller for him. And he couldn't even face me to say goodbye. Rehab was hell. Not just physically, though learning to transfer from bed to wheelchair, learning to shower, learning to navigate a world built for people who could walk was harder than anything I'd ever done. The real hell was emotional. I'd lost everything. My husband, my mobility, my sense of who I was. Some days I couldn't stop crying. Other days I felt nothing at all, which was somehow worse. But my family, God, my family saved me. My mom moved in with me when I finally got discharged. She'd help me with things I was too proud to ask for help with. But she did it so quietly, so naturally, that I almost didn't notice. Sarah came over every weekend with art supplies she'd accidentally bought too many of. You should paint, she'd say, setting up an easel next to my bed. Just for fun, just because. I can't, I'd tell her. My hands shake now. From the medication, from the trauma. I can't control them like I used to. So paint with shaky hands, she said simply. Paint with angry hands. Paint with broken hands. Just paint. So I did. The first painting I finished was terrible. Angry red slashes across a canvas, colors bleeding into each other in ways that made no sense. But it was mine. It was honest. It was real. I started painting every day. Sometimes just for 5 minutes when the depression was too heavy. Sometimes for hours when I could lose myself in the colors and forget everything else. I painted my grief, my anger, my fear, my slowly returning hope. I also started going to therapy, real therapy, not just the physical kind. Dr. Chen helped me understand that what Ryan did wasn't love. It never had been. Love doesn't ask you to make yourself smaller. Love doesn't abandon you when things get hard. You spent 3 years trying to be perfect for someone who was never going to appreciate you, she told me one day. What would happen if you spent the next 3 years being perfect for yourself? 2 years after the accident, I had my first art show. Well, calling it a show is generous, it was really just the coffee shop down the street letting me hang some paintings on their walls. But it felt like the Met to me. Sarah had convinced me to display them, even though I was terrified. What if people stared? What if they pitied me? What if my work wasn't good enough? A week into the show, a woman approached me while I was having coffee there. She was older, elegant, wearing the kind of scarf I used to dream about owning. Excuse me, are you the artist? My heart started racing. Yes, I'd like to buy this one. She pointed to a painting I'd done during one of my darkest days, a woman in a wheelchair, but with wings sprouting from her shoulders, reaching toward a brilliant sky. It's called Unbroken, I told her. That's perfect, she said. I'm buying it for my daughter. She's been having a hard time since her divorce. I think she needs to see that breaking doesn't mean the end. She paid me $300. $300 for something I'd painted with hands that still shook sometimes, from a wheelchair I was still learning to love. I cried in that coffee shop. Happy tears, for the first time in 2 years. That sale changed everything, not just financially, though Lord knows I needed the money, but emotionally. Someone valued my work. Someone saw beauty in what I'd created from my pain. I started getting commissions. People wanted paintings that captured hope, resilience, transformation. I began to realize that my experience, as painful as it had been, gave me something unique to offer the world. 3 years after the accident, I was invited to speak at a TEDx event. Me. The woman who used to be afraid to speak up in her own marriage was being asked to share her story with hundreds of people. I almost said no. What if I couldn't do it? What if I had a panic attack on stage? What if people judged me? But then I thought about that woman in the coffee shop buying Unbroken for her daughter. I thought about all the messages I'd started getting from people who'd seen my work online, women who'd been left, who'd been broken, who'd been told they weren't enough. If my story could help even one person feel less alone, I had to try. The day of the TEDx talk, my hands were shaking worse than they had since those first weeks after the accident. But this time it wasn't from medication or trauma. It was from excitement, from purpose, from the knowledge that I was exactly where I was supposed to be. I rolled onto that stage, yes, rolled, because my wheelchair was part of me now, part of my story, and looked out at all those faces. 3 years ago, I began. My husband left me while I was in the hospital, paralyzed from a car accident he caused. He said I was too much drama, too hard to handle. He was probably right about the drama part. The audience laughed, and I felt some of my nervousness fade. But what he didn't understand is that sometimes drama is just passion that hasn't found its proper outlet. Sometimes being too much just means you haven't found the people who deserve your muchness. I talked about dreams deferred and dreams reborn. About the difference between breaking and being broken. About how sometimes the worst thing that happens to you can also be the thing that sets you free. When I finished, the standing ovation felt like coming home to myself. Last month, 5 years after he left me in that hospital bed, Ryan called. I was in my studio when my phone rang. Unknown number, but something made me answer. Emily? It's Ryan. My heart stopped. After 5 years of silence, there was that voice. The voice that used to call my dreams a hobby. I know I have no right to call, he continued, and I could hear something in his voice, desperation. But I've been following your work online. I saw your TED Talk. Your gallery features. I'm so proud of you, Emily. The audacity. The absolute audacity of this man to claim pride in what I'd built from the ashes he'd left me in. What do you want, Ryan? I want to see you. I need to apologize properly. Face to face. I was wrong to leave you. I was scared and dash. Scared of what? Scared of loving someone who wasn't perfect anymore? Silence. I made the biggest mistake of my life, Emily. I'd been thinking about you every single day for 5 years. I lost everything, my job, my apartment. Jessica left me last month. I'm living in my mom's basement now. Jessica. So there had been a Jessica. Of course there had been. I know I don't deserve it, he continued, but could we meet? Just for coffee? I always believed in your art, you know. I always knew you were special. And there it was. The rewriting of history. The lies that came so naturally to him. You want to meet for coffee, I said slowly. After 5 years. Yes. Please. I know I can't undo what I did, but maybe we could try again? I'm different now. I understand what really matters. And what's that, Ryan? What really matters? You do. Us. What we had was real, Emily. I know that now. What we had. A marriage where I made myself smaller every day. Where my dreams were called hobbies. Where I cooked his dinner and swallowed my words and painted in secret like some shameful addiction. Where would you like to meet? I asked. I could hear the relief in his voice. Really? Oh God, Emily, thank you. How about that little cafe on Pearl Street? Tomorrow at 2? I'll be there. The next day, I rolled into that cafe wearing my best dress, the red one I'd bought for my last gallery opening. My hair was done, my makeup perfect. I looked like success, and I felt like power. Ryan was already there, hunched over a corner table, looking older and smaller than I remembered. When he saw me, his face lit up with something that looked like hope. Emily, he breathed, standing up. You look, wow. You look incredible. Thank you. I transferred to the chair across from him, folding my wheelchair beside me like I'd done 1,000 times before. The movement was smooth, confident. This was my body now, and I owned it completely. I ordered you a latte, he said. Extra foam, no sugar. I remember. Such a small thing to remember. Such a small thing to think would matter after everything. So, I said, leaning back in my chair. Tell me about Jessica. His face flushed red. That's over. It was never serious. How long? Emily Dash. How long were you with her, Ryan? 4 years, he mumbled. 4 years. He'd moved on with Jessica while I was learning to shower alone, while I was crying through physical therapy, while I was building myself back up from nothing. Did you tell her about me? Of course I did. I told her about the accident, about how hard it was. Dash. Did you tell her you left me in the hospital? Did you tell her you filed for divorce while I was still learning to use a catheter? The silence stretched between us like a chasm. I was young, he finally said. I was scared. I didn't know how to handle it. You were 28, Ryan. Not 18. 28. I know. I know I was wrong. But I'm here now. I'm ready now. Ready. As if I'd been waiting. As if I'd been on pause for 5 years, just hoping he'd come back and restart my life. Tell me about your life now, I said. What have you been doing? Working mostly. Marketing jobs, nothing special. I've been trying to figure myself out, you know? Trying to become the man you deserved. And Jessica? What did she do? She was a teacher. Elementary school. His voice got softer. She was nice. But she wasn't you. What happened? She wanted to get married. Wanted kids. I couldn't. I kept thinking about what I'd lost. About you. About us. So he'd wasted Jessica's time too. For years of her life while he pined for a woman he'd abandoned. Emily, he leaned forward, reaching across the table like he might touch my hand. I know I hurt you. I know I was the worst kind of coward. But seeing what you've accomplished. God, you're amazing. You always were amazing. I was just too stupid to see it. When did you first see my work online? About 2 years ago. Sarah posted something on Facebook about your first gallery show. I clicked on it and I couldn't believe it. You were so beautiful, so confident. And your art. He shook his head. It was everything I knew you could do. 2 years. He'd been watching my comeback for 2 years and only now decided to reach out. Only now, when his own life had fallen apart. I have a confession, he continued. I bought one of your paintings. The one called Phoenix Rising. It's hanging in my mom's basement right now. My blood ran cold. That painting, it was from my darkest period. A woman rising from flames, her wheelchair transformed into wings of fire. I painted it during one of my worst panic attacks, tears streaming down my face, hands shaking so badly I could barely hold the brush. He'd bought my pain. Literally purchased the art I'd created from the trauma he'd caused. You bought my painting. I couldn't help it. It was you. It was everything I'd destroyed, everything I'd lost. I stare at it every night and think about what could have been. How much did you pay for it? $1,500. It was worth every penny. $1,500. He'd paid $1,500 for my painting while I was struggling to pay for wheelchair repairs and medical bills. Money that could have changed my life in those early years. Ryan, I said carefully, do you know what that painting was about? Rising from the ashes? Starting over? It's beautiful, Emily. It's hope. It's about the night I tried to kill myself. The color drained from his face. I painted that after spending 6 hours in my bathroom, staring at a bottle of pills and wondering if anyone would even notice I was gone. I painted it with tears streaming down my face, trying to convince myself that maybe, just maybe, there was a reason to keep going. Emily, I dash. You've been staring at my suicide note for 2 years, Ryan. You've been staring at the moment I almost gave up because of what you did to me, and you thought it was beautiful. He was crying now. Actual tears rolling down his cheeks. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I never meant dash. But you did mean it. You meant every word when you called my art a hobby. You meant it when you chose Jessica over visiting me even once. You meant it when you told people I was unstable, that I'd caused the accident. I never said that, dash. Don't lie to me. Not now. My cousin heard you at Tom's birthday party 6 months after the accident. You said I was always dramatic, always starting fights. You said you were better off without the drama. He put his head in his hands. I was angry. I was hurt. I felt guilty and I didn't know how to deal with it. So you dealt with it by making me the villain in your story. By rewriting history so you could sleep at night. When he looked up at me, his eyes were red and desperate. What can I do? How can I make this right? I'll do anything, Emily. Anything. And that's when I realized something beautiful. Something that made me want to laugh and cry at the same time. I felt nothing for him. Not anger, not hurt, not even pity. He was just a stranger to me now. A stranger who happened to share some history with the woman I used to be. There's nothing to make right, Ryan. There's no debt to pay. You gave me exactly what I needed, even if you didn't mean to. I don't understand. I leaned forward, my voice clear and strong. You broke me so completely that I had to rebuild myself from scratch. And when I did, I didn't rebuild the small, scared woman who would have spent her life making excuses for your behavior. I built someone new. Someone stronger. Someone who doesn't need anyone's permission to take up space in this world. Emily dash. I'm not finished. You want to know what my life looks like now? I wake up every morning in a house I bought with money I earned from my art. I have friends who love me exactly as I am. I have work that matters, work that helps other women find their voices. I have a man in my life who thinks my wheelchair is sexy because it's part of me, who encourages my dreams instead of calling them hobbies. His face cracked at that. Good. You gave me the greatest gift anyone has ever given me, Ryan. You showed me who I was when I had nothing left to lose. You showed me what I was capable of when I stopped trying to be small enough for someone else's comfort. I stood up, transferred back to my wheelchair, and looked down at him. So thank you. Thank you for leaving me. Thank you for choosing Jessica. Thank you for buying my painting and staring at my pain every night, because it means you never forgot what you lost. It means you know exactly what you threw away. Please, he whispered. Please don't leave me again. I almost laughed. I'm not leaving you, Ryan. I left you 5 years ago in that hospital when I decided to survive without you. Today, I'm just saying goodbye. I rolled toward the door, then turned back one last time. Oh, and Ryan? That painting you bought? I want you to keep it. Every time you look at it, I want you to remember that you didn't break me. You freed me. I left him there, crying into his cold coffee, and rolled out into the sunshine to meet my real life. The life I'd built without him. The life that was more beautiful than any dream I'd ever dared to dream when I was small enough to fit in his world. 2 hours later, I was back in my studio, paintbrush in hand, working on a new piece. This one was called Goodbye, a Woman in a Wheelchair, Rolling Away from a Shadow and Toward a Brilliant, Blazing Sun. Ladies, if you're watching this and you see yourself in Emily's story, if you've been abandoned when things got tough, if someone called your dreams a hobby, if you've been told you're too much, listen to me. You are not too much. You are not broken. And sometimes the people who leave us do us the biggest favor of our lives. Emily's story proves that our pain can become our power. That sometimes we have to lose everything we thought we wanted to find everything we actually needed. If you're in that dark place right now, wondering how you'll go on, afraid to chase your dreams, staring at divorce papers, your comeback is coming. It might be harder than you imagined, but it will be more beautiful than you ever dreamed possible. Hit that like button if Emily's story touched your heart. Leave a comment and tell me about your own comeback story. I read every single one, and your words might be exactly what another woman needs to hear today. And don't forget to like, subscribe and hit that notification bell, because I'll be here every day with more stories of women who refused to stay down, who turned their pain into power, who proved that the most beautiful phoenixes rise from the biggest fires. Until next time, beautiful souls, remember, your story isn't over. Your best chapters are still being written. With love and light, Mary Redheart.